Hey folks, The Last of Us Season 1 is finished. Here's my review for it. Likes, dislikes, and of course, the inevitable comparisons to the game. It's an adaptation, but the game is still my frame of reference. Episode 1, When You're Lost in the Darkness. So going into it, obviously a little bit of apprehension. I know HBO throwing an awful lot of money at it. I know they got Craig Mazin, who made Chernobyl, onto it. It's like you're hoping it's going to be good. One of the first things they do is their title. You know, there's title sequence, use the song, the main theme from The Last of Us. I'm going, okay. And then we get the interview segment, the talk show going around with the experts. And I'm thinking, okay, HBO, all right, this looks real good. I can feel the money spent, given this sort of realistic version of what could happen if a fungus mutates and we don't really have any cure for it. Sets the stage pretty damn well. Extending pre-breakout, seeing more of Sarah and Joel, as well as a bit of Tommy. The banter between Sarah and Joel I quite liked. Also, there's no pancake mix, and they end up eating eggs with some shell in it for calcium. There's a clever moment at the table where Joel goes to look at his watch, but of course it isn't there, so he has to use his phone to check the time. And then Sarah's wheels are spinning, she goes off and gets his watch fixed. There's some excellent foreshadowing. In the neighbour's house, the grandmother in the chair is starting to twitch. The student in the classroom, her wrist is starting to twitch as well. That's why the watch is catching the light. When Sarah gets to the shop to replace the watch, the daughter is ushering her out. In the background, there's police, fire brigade, and even a SWAT team goes by the window. Joel inevitably comes home, and we get our first instance of a line lifted directly from the game. You know, when Joel asks, where'd you get the money for this? Sarah's response, I sell drugs. I sell hardcore drugs. That's nice. All this pre-breakout stuff, I could have actually done with more of it. It was really cool to see. I would say that the pre-breakout stuff in the show was better than the game. They did a really good job recreating the car scene from Sarah's perspective. Didn't like the plane crashing so close to them. Yeah, had me going with the believability, with the scientist at the beginning explaining it, and then kind of stuff trickling and people twitching, and it's getting like, it's good. And then here's the outbreak. And I'm okay with a plane falling out of the sky, but it landing so close to them and stuff whipping up and hitting them, it's like, oh no, it doesn't look good. It's just immersion breaking. Sarah dying. I thought the dialogue for the guard who's holding them up, you know, he says in the game, sir, but there's a, what was it? Sir, there's a little girl. Then there's a pause, but, okay. In the show, it's just okay, and then he holds up to shoot. I think that they should have stuck with the game writing for that. It's just much more impactful when you realize the guy doesn't want to do it, and there's a little girl. More weight. Speaking of more weight, Sarah dying, I think the actress playing Sarah did well. I think the actor playing Joel, Pedro Pascal, didn't do as well with the Joel. So I understand in the game they did that scene a lot, and they actually did reshoots for the scene as well. And of course you're dealing with a game where you can touch up everything. You can move the camera, you can adjust facial animations, you can use all sorts of different takes, all sorts of different line deliveries. You can use, you know, this word from take number 2 and then these few words from take number 12, and it seamlessly fits together. You get the perfect performance because you can mix and match. Whereas with the show, I can do different camera angles. You don't have nearly as much flexibility. So for me, the Sarah dying scene, from Joel, it didn't feel as weighty. I was just missing that little bit extra. Flashing forward 20 years later, the QZ is way more populated and seems almost nicer, you know, and when they got that shot of the street and all the different people wandering about. Sure, it's heavily controlled, but there's no zombies here. Could be worse, right? I do like the combination of real sets and CG backgrounds. It helps it feel a bit more grounded. They do it quite often throughout the show, whereas all the stuff in the background is CG. You're not going to build a skyscraper, but all the stuff in the foreground is definitely, you know, practical. It helps me sort of, you know, I can mentally, I know, yeah, that's not real. But while I'm watching, I'm going like, oh, I want to be there. I want to explore that world. That's the way I felt about the QZ. It's like, oh, let me roam those streets. Let me climb those buildings. That looks cool. Shout out to the costume department. Joel and Ellie throughout the show will wear almost exactly the same things they wore in the game. Just brings them to life. Well done. It was nice to see what Joel's smuggling business actually is. There's parts where the show will expand on certain things, and these are always the parts I really liked. It's like, okay, yes, we've heard about this, but now you're actually getting to see it in action. My first proper dislike is Tess. Tess in the game, I view her as a sort of a lovable rogue. There's a great moment when she comes into Joel's apartment and he's touching her up, she's got bruises. It's like, oh, it's nothing, just a couple of assholes. And Joel says to her, well, are these assholes still with us? And then Tess just gives a wry smile. It's this thing of, Tess might have killed him, you know Tess. And then later on when you're doing one of the very first combat sequences, and you're hunkered down, stealthing up on a couple of guys, and they're talking to themselves about, oh, did you hear some crazy woman killed my friend or whatever it was? And then Tess will turn around to you and also smile again. And it's like, Tess, lovable rogue. Whereas in the show, she's very much downtrodden by life and doesn't seem at all capable. The first encounter they have in the second episode, she dies from. In the game, she's the one making decisions and Joel follows along, and she's highly capable. For example, when Robert is running away, use the lead pipe, smash the knees. He's on the ground ordering Joel to break his arm, and then, like, I've had enough of this, and just puts a bullet in him. In the show, it was, I don't know. I didn't believe that this version of Tess had survived this long. Oh, compounding this, how does Tess escape the interrogation? An explosion that bursts open the wall and kills everyone else in the room, but not her. No, it's much like the plane crash. For me, I find it immersion breaking. It's like, okay, yeah, everyone else in the room is dead, and that's how you escape. Not by being clever, or not by outwitting them, or just brutally beating them to death. No, just a coincidental explosion at just the right time and killed everyone else in the room. Yeah, dumb luck is how the Tess has survived this long in the show, is my take on it. They switched up how Joel and Ellie meet. Instead, I just smashed her into a wall and then stamp on her switchblade. After playing the game for so long, I cringed about the foot in this. I was like, be nice to the switchblade. I use that a lot. I need it. Probably a good idea to get rid of the entire combat sequence, the tutorial. But seeing them hunt down Robert, I think might have been a good idea to show what they're able to do. It's like, okay, yeah, these folks are on the ball and they're, like I said before, capable. Happens a few times in the show when they recreate a scene from the game. I feel that the show delivers lines too fast. One in episode 1 I'm talking about is when Joel is lying on the couch and Ellie asks, what am I supposed to do? And the line is, I'm sure you will figure that out. Kind of this exasperated, I don't care what you do. In the show, the line just delivered a bit faster. And maybe just by me, or maybe I'm misremembering it, but it felt like that, and also the car scene where Ellie's in the back with Bill's magazine. Again, it feels like lines are delivered too fast, or, yeah. I know, nitpicking, but when you can hear a line directly from the game, it's like, it doesn't sound like it sounds in the game. Comparisons are inevitable. The entire scene of the Fedra guy taking readings from Joel, Tess, and Ellie, I think is actually done better in the show. Because we met the guy before, we know his face. Also, when Joel turns on him, you're getting this sort of flashback feeling of, damn, this is what he wished he did when he had Sarah to protect. And you can feel as he's unleashing all that rage. It's like, this if you go back 20 years' time, this is what he'd do instead. And it does show that very violent side. Whereas in the game, it's just a gunshot and the guy's dead. This is Joel beats the absolute fuck out of him. Pretty powerful. And Ellie seeing that, yeah, that was done better in the show. Overall, for episode 1, relieved and excited for more. It's like, okay, more or less, this is good. This is the story. May not like everything about it, but I can see the effort. I can see the money spent. So far, we're good. Episode 2, Infected. Another fantastic opening. Seeing how the outbreak was happening on a different part of the world, because in episode 1, we heard about, oh yeah, in Jakarta, this is happening, and infections. And they're like, where's Jakarta? And Sarah's correct him, Indonesia. So seeing what actually happened there, and the entire sequence of the lady cutting out the person, the fungus growing out of the mouth, great addition. And that wonderful scene where the camera starts out here and slowly zooms in as the guard is speaking to her and asking her the scientist lady, what should we do? And her response, bomb. Whoa. Bomb. She kind of gets a bit shaken and says, I would like to see my family now. Oh no, I would like to be with my family. Oh. Hey doctor, in your expert opinion, what should we do to mitigate this outbreak? Bomb. So good. So good. The opening of both these episodes were not part of the game, but add more context and are just generally fucking cool. When they're walking through the abandoned, the outskirts, it all, again, much like I mentioned in the first episode, it feels real to me. Now, I want to walk through those things. I like the little moments in between the big moments. It's just, walking through the world. That was some of my favorite points of the game. Just walking through the world, taking it all in, seeing places that were just stuck in time, nature slowly retaking them. Wonderful. The first one-on-one time Joel and Ellie get together, I like the rocky start to relationship. Ellie is trying to ask questions and trying to get to know Joel, and he's just having none of it. There's the start. That's our identifiable starting point. And let's see how that builds throughout. Because one of the best parts of the show and the game are scenes of Ellie and Joel just talking to each other. Initially butting heads due to their disparate personalities, but eventually growing to love each other. It's a story that's been told before, but it's still sweet to see. Not sure how I feel about the show's version of Infected and the Horde and the Hive Mind. Because when you see them, it's just a lot of them together and they start to feel like zombies. Typical zombies I've seen in all other forms of media. Whereas in the game, I felt like they were individual people, and probably due to the limitations of the PS3, only a certain amount of people allowed on screen at the same time, running all that AI. But I felt kind of like smaller encounters. The moment I saw a horde, I went, oh no, this is just a zombie flick. Yeah, not sure how I feel about that. However, while the horde sucks, the clickers, that scene of the cat and mouse, oh man. The very first moment the clicker turns and shouts at Joel and you see all the details on its head. Incredible. The tension as well during that scene. Trying to find a way to stay quiet. Or even Joel when he's reloading. You might have noticed he's reloading, trying to be real quiet, putting in the bullets. That's cool. So Tess's final plea to Joel, that entire scene, she's infected, she's going to stay behind. Didn't quite hit for me in the show either. Much like Sarah's death scene. It felt rushed. It felt like the lines were delivered too fast. And again, here comes the horde. Blow them all up. But like I mentioned, in a game, you can facial animations, you can adjust. Yeah, you have a lot more freedom. Overall, fine. Episode 3, Long Time. Opens with Joel and Ellie taking a calm walk through wherever. And these are some of my favorite scenes in the show. Just the two of them together, walking along, getting to know each other. Ellie marveling at a plane. You guys used to fly in that? Whoa! Cool stuff. And then Joel explaining the graves and what Fedra were doing, rounding up people for the QZ. And those didn't have space for, well, they couldn't risk infected. I do like the explanation of people getting infected via food and common items such as sugar or flour, which are used in almost everything around the world. And of course, the nod back to they didn't have any that day. They didn't have any pancake mix. Here comes Bill. His introduction. And the opening 10 minutes with Bill, fucking fantastic. The Fedra people coming into his house and he's underneath in his surveillance area with all his guns. Not today, you New World Order jackboot fucks. He is a paranoid survivalist who was right. A doomsday prepper, and was it? The apocalypse actually happened. Great. The whole montage of Bill setting up his town. I want my own town. I want my own playground to do stuff like this. This looks fun. Him enjoying his meal where he sees the infected like staggering towards one of his traps. Excellent. Bill is living better than most people do today. Never mind people in a zombie apocalypse. Bill and Frank's relationship. So lovely. Never got to see it before, only the rough aftermath. Bill being all shy at the start is adorable. I quickly realized this isn't the Bill from the game. He kind of reminds me more of the actor when he was playing Ron Swanson. The kind of the shyness, the kind of the doesn't really know what to do with himself. It is possible to have butterflies when you meet someone new, no matter what age you are. It's one of those prime examples of zombie media not really being about zombies, but about the interpersonal relationships. Favorite exchange in the episode and perhaps the entire series? Frank bursting out the door, arguing with Bill and saying, "You're someone who thinks 9/11 was an inside job and the government are all Nazis." The government are all Nazis. Well, yeah, now, but not back then. Give an awful lot of credits to the relationship and how well it goes, but then Bill does something really stupid. Starts firing back at bandits in the middle of the street. I understand he wanted to get out of the house to take fire away from the house so Frank doesn't get hurt, but there's another house right beside them he could have went into and, you know, have the high ground and shoot down. But no, he's standing in the middle of the street for some reason firing back. Doesn't seem like a very Bill thing to do. It's cool to see how Tess, Joel and Bill and Frank met. All the kind of little scene in their lawn, sharing a meal and exchanging goods and sort of we can help each other out. That's cool. The entire final day. Today is my last day. It's like, oh. So I was expecting for a while for the other shoe to drop. When is the falling out? When does Frank get to the point of, I hate your stinking guts? They decided to turn that and actually give them a happy ending, sort of. You know, they care for each other. They live together, they grow old together, they die together. I think on an individual episode level, it works really well and isolated. It's a fantastic episode. It does set a precedent of in episode 1, Sarah died. In episode 2, Tess died. In episode 3, Bill and Frank died. I don't think it's a good way of doing it because in the very next episode at the end, you meet Henry and Sam. And if you're a first-time viewer, you're just probably going to assume they're going to die, which they are going to die. So in the game, having Bill survive was a kind of, okay, not everyone is dying. This curmudgeon is still going to be around, bitter, resentful, and like a cockroach. You know, can't kill him. It kind of falls in this pattern of like, here's an interesting side character, or here's an interesting co-character or co-lead with Tess. They're going to die. Like, when you're introduced to anyone new, why would I bother getting to care about them? Because I know they're going to die. I would have been okay with Frank going and Bill living on. Maybe it's a way to break up the death, you know, the domino effect of all the death. Overall, pretty good episode. Although Billstown didn't look all that bad. I keep saying this. Billstown, the game, is a fucking trap. A maze of traps and deadly every step of the way. Billstown, the show, maybe it might be budgetary reasons. You can't have that much stuff around. I don't know. But Billstown in the show looks like absolute Pleasantville. Picture perfect suburbia. I'd be happy lived in Billstown. In the game, not so much. Episode 4, Hold. Okay, is this real? Okay. Wikipedia calls it Please Hold to My Hand. Okay. The joke book is finally here. It took us a while, but we got the joke book. Ellie is starting to feel like herself. You know, the little funny twerp who's, what's it, like a pipsqueak gnawing at the heels of Joel. I liked it. They did the Builds magazine joke. Again, I think it landed better in the game, but still pretty good. All the wide shots of them driving through the plains and driving through the kind of forested areas. Again, this is some of my favorite parts of it. Just if I can see more of the world collapsing in higher detail, love it. Plenty of good action once they get into Kansas, fighting off some of the raiders, Ellie assisting Joel. So the different slant on it. So in the game, it's not giving you a gun, not giving you a gun. Uses the gun to save Joel's life, and then Joel's response in the game is, why'd you do that? Well, you're glad I did, right? And he's like, no, look, I didn't get my head blown off by a goddamn kid. Whereas in the show is, you know, I didn't want you to shoot because I didn't want you to have to kill. A much sweeter version of Joel. In fact, throughout the series in the show, he doesn't really raise his voice to Ellie at all. He does a few times in the game. Yeah, just kind of thought about that now. Yeah, very few outbursts against Ellie. A new side character, Kathleen, the leader of the people in Kansas, where everything is Henry's fault. Anything that goes wrong, Henry's behind it. Henry did this. Henry did that. And of course, all the folks are following her because they loved her brother. I know, I kind of view her as a bit paranoid. Henry, Henry. Hey, all these zombies are coming through the floor. We should probably... Henry, Henry. Bit of an odd character. Oh. Although it does give a wrinkle to Henry's character, that the reason they're hunting him is because he turned the brother into Fedra. He only did that because he needed medicine for Sam. Like, okay, I like that bit. That's nice. Tommy's voice actor gets to be Kathleen's number 2. I heard the voice and went, no way! And he also gets a death later on that is straight from the game. So good. Joel is now even older. So in the first game on PS3, Joel was in his late 40s. That was the description, late 40s. And then in part 2, he was 57, which would retroactively make him 52 in the first game. And now in the show, he's 56. But what are you doing to him? Why are you making... I could believe a guy, who's strong, who's, well, as strong as you can be in the post-apocalypse, but he's a big lad. In his 40s, still being capable and able to do all these different things. Joel being 50, so that means in part 2, in season 2, he's going to be in his 60s? I don't know how I feel about that. Why are you sapping years away from Joel? Why are you constantly, every single iteration, make him older and older? I'm looking forward to the PS6 remake of Last of Us Part 1 where Joel is just 75 years old. Finally, we end with them meeting Henry and Sam. Joel initially puts down a bunch of glass as a trap. Ellie remarks how his hearing in his right ear is going, and he thinks it's from shooting. Sure enough, when they sneak up on him, Joel is sleeping on his left side, so he's covering his left ear, and it's his right ear it's like, good detail. Episode 5, Endure and Survive. There's been some changes to Sam. He's now much younger. I think he's meant to be 8 in the show, as opposed to... So in the game, Ellie talks about, oh, she's 14. And Sam says, oh yeah, me too. He says, yeah? Really? You're 14 now? Shut up. So that kind of in my head is like, he's probably 12, maybe 13, but has a crush on Ellie and is just trying like, yeah, me too. I'm also 14. I'm not younger than you, no. The entire Sam and Henry section as they're going through the sewers and then after the sewers before the sniper section, I love that part of the game. Ellie is around someone her own age and just being a kid again. Henry and Sam have a little bit of bonding, and the mirror of Henry being really strict with Sam, like don't go there, don't do that, and Joel not being as strict with Ellie. There's a great scene of the Ellie and Sam on the couch together, throwing sweets up and messing around, and before before the night before Sam is turning, Henry and Joel talking about motorbikes together, and that was pretty cool. Yeah, it's not levity. It's like, okay, we can breathe. That's the way I viewed it. In the show, with Sam being much younger, Ellie takes on a more of a big sister motherly role, which I suppose allows her to feel the same sort of loss that Joel felt with Sarah. And then the change of Sam being deaf, which makes him even more reliable, which makes him rely upon Henry more. I get that change. I definitely liked the relationship they had in the game between Sam and Ellie of kind of peers and just young kids bouncing around. But I'm okay with this version in the show. All the tunnel stuff, very cool. A little shout out to Ish. The sniper scene in the show is done way better than the game. I never liked that part in the game. It's like, oh, defend people. Great in a sniper section. Never liked it. In the show, it is... Joel is on point with all these shots. The kid infected crawling through the car after Ellie. Oh, creepy. Oh, the bloater. Oh, so I don't know. From my understanding, they did it real and then they also did CG, but then they preferred the CG version because they could. I know it didn't look quite right for me, but it was very cool to see him, of course, ripping Tommy's head off and all that sort of stuff. And we have the two of them dying. I liked Ellie trying to heal him. Like, oh, my blood is immune, I'll heal you with Sam. But I thought it was really fucking stupid for her to stay in the same room as him. Like, Ellie, what are you doing? You know he's infected. Don't stay in the room with him. Oh my goodness. But we did get that great last moment with the pad. I'm sorry. And then Ellie's telling Joel, come on, we gotta go. And you've seen that sort of coldness from her that Joel had initially after Sarah's death. Good stuff. Episode 6, Kin. Bit of a humorous opening with the couple being completely nonplussed by the fact that there are strangers in their house with a gun. What is it? We're looking for the fireflies. The bugs? There are people fireflies now, whatever they're saying. Yeah, I like the idea of that. The world's gone to shit and this just old couple don't care. Even making Joel and Ellie soup while they're waiting for the husband to come home. Yeah, really good stuff. Although what is unforgivable, they passed by the hydroelectric dam and there was no high five. This is the introduction of Joel's PTSD and him no longer having the confidence in himself to safely bring Ellie to the fireflies. Even freezing up before the dog sniffed Ellie. It's an interesting addition to his character. Understandable. Might also explain why he doesn't kill as many people in the show, because it would be incongruent. Okay, yeah, you got PTSD, but you keep killing people. In the game, he killed, I don't know, 300 plus people. Half of whom, maybe more than half of whom were actual people and the other half were zombies. If Joel was to do that sort of violent streak in the show, you kind of question, like, you got PTSD, how are you still able to go? Wouldn't you be shook? You know, it comes from shell shock. You wouldn't be able to handle it. Like, I can see you just froze up for this moment. I think it explains why there aren't as many zombies in the show or as many deaths that Joel takes part in, because he is actually like feeling the effects of years of doing it. Why he wants Tommy to take her. Tommy's younger. He's got a better shot. He knows the land better. In the game, he's pawning off Ellie because he's sort of afraid to love her the way he loved Sarah in case something happens. He's still kind of closed off. In this, it's more of a practical reason, also maybe a bit of a love reason. Although the question is, why not both you just go together? If two people can survive, surely three can survive better. Joel and Ellie got all the way here on their own. Now adding Tommy into it surely makes them more of a formidable group. I don't know. So instead of going to the power plant and all that sort of stuff, we're going to Jackson from part 2 with the fairy lights all set up, and they're, I don't know, 350 people or something like that, their little commune. It looks nice. It's not quite as homely as in part 2, but that's 5 years later. I'm sure they'll be back. It'll look even more welcoming. Fairy lights at night, folks. They're just beautiful. The infamous scene in the bedroom. Everyone except for fucking you. Yeah, again, I think the game is way better at this. The acting felt flat, especially from Joel. Yeah, it was a solid scene. It was like, oh, I've been spoiled because I've had it from the game. As they reunite and go horse riding across the plains or wherever they're going, really sweet moment. Ellie on the back, resting her head against Joel. It's like, oh, I like that touch. My oh my, the university was fast. The university is one of my favorite sections in the game because it's an awful lot of slow walking around, Ellie and Joel talking to each other, getting to know each other even more. Now I understand you can sort of do that in the show, but I'm scavenging for supplies and Ellie is talking with Joel. It's like, I'm not sure, I don't know how, it is definitely a medium thing. I'm not sure how well it would translate to the show. But yeah, the university was fast. And them cutting out the entire thing of Joel getting injured and then Ellie rising to the occasion. It's the moment that Ellie rises to the occasion and defends Joel against all the other people. And that's a big moment for Ellie. He's like, now you're in charge and you stumbled a bit, but you got it done and now you and Joel are out of there. Can you walk? Yeah, well then fucking walk. Oh, so good. In the show, he just has one encounter with the dude, gets stabbed and I don't know. Or is it two people they fight? Yeah, it's kind of not as good. Episode 7, Left Behind, another flashback episode. 9 episodes, 2 which are flashbacks, which means 7 episodes in the present tense. I think this explains why the show feels rushed. As for Left Behind episode, as it's starting, I'm going like, oh, we're going to do the whole thing? Okay. But then as I'm watching the episode, I'm going, okay, this is actually very nice. It is nice, right? Especially the arcade scene and all the neon lights, the little glances Ellie and Riley have to each other on the Ferris wheel and the photo booth. It's a nice episode. I think a bit long. When Riley talks about their 5 wonders she wants to show Ellie, I'm like, oh, damn. Ellie comes back, we still have more wonders to go through. It's like, oh. What I really would have liked is if they actually showed post-bite. Now what are we doing? You know, how does that night go? Riley starts to twitch, and then she's waiting for Ellie's twitch, but it doesn't come. When is the moment Ellie has to kill her? That would have been kind of, you know, the added context or showing a bit more. I think that would have been a better idea than this wonderland that they're going through. It's fine to watch the first time, but I don't think many people will be rewatching it in the years to come. Episode 8, When We Are in Need. Change to David. He's reciting scripture. I did not like this at all. The Christian cult leader has been done so many times, I didn't need to see it. In the game, it seems that the thing that binds them all together is their love of cannibalism. You can find notes of the folks in, in Pittsburgh. There's a pile of bodies, and there's a note next to them. It's like, oh, you know, they're gleeful about finding bodies to eat. Yeah, it's just very, very creepy. Whereas in this, it's, oh yeah, people are down the luck and they're looking towards religion for solace, and I understand that. It's just much like the plane crash, much like the horde. It's just it's a tired trope. It's like, we've done this. The actor playing David did well. However, I freaked out at seeing Troy Baker, and he was given a lot of lines. I was like, hell yeah, this is good. I like the I'm biased because I think Troy's great. In the show, he does this really good moment between David and, I'm just going to call him Troy. I don't know what his name is. It's called James in the show. I think it's called James in the show. I'm going to call him Troy. But David and Troy, when Troy questions David's plan to bring Ellie back, he's like, one more mouth to feed. And David pauses, turns and looks at him. And Troy just kind of looks down. It's that non-verbal, I'm in charge, I'm making decisions, don't question me. It's like, yes, sir. The interrogation scene. Oh my. This is better in the show. Joel punching one guy in the seat and is sort of wheezing afterwards and catching his breath because he's still recovering. His laboured walk across the room to the guy tied to the radiator, trying to grab the lead pipe. The entire thing is just fantastic. That did not feel rushed. That was laboured. It was slower. I felt everything. You know, he stabs him in the kneecap. I'm going to pop it off. Puts the knife in his mouth and tells him to find the spot on the map. Masterfully done. One part where the show David is far creepier than the game David is when he's got Ellie pinned down and says, I thought you'd know, the fighting is the part I like the most. Don't be afraid, there is no fear in love. I want to vomit. Episode 9, Look for the Light. Ashley Johnson. The role of Ellie's mother, perfect casting. It was just, this is the sort of stuff that as a fan, yes, bring back Tommy, bring back Troy, bring back Ashley. I know they would have tried to bring back the actress for Tess, but unfortunately she died quite young. Explaining how Ellie is immune, because the mother was bit just before delivery. Much like explaining how the contaminated food is what led to the initial infections, all this sort of like scientific based stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's believable. Yeah, sure. It's like bit, yeah, delivered. Okay, yeah, so the fungus grew with her. I get that. Yeah, sure. I suppose, although wouldn't it be, I don't know. Yeah, Danny's sort of trying to explain and like, hey, thanks for taking the time to explain it to me. That's nice. So after the whole David thing, in the game, Joel is trying to reconnect with Ellie and be nice to her, and I think the show actually does it better because you can have those you can direct the camera. Whereas in the game, you're kind of walking along and you might miss Ellie doing certain stuff. Like she'll be kind of looking at something too long, or she'll be kind of her head down. Whereas the show, you can point the camera and show, listen, hey, Ellie's fucking miserable over here. Joel is trying to sort of, hey, do you want to play guitar? And met with silence, long pause. It captures the feeling of trying to console someone, but their mind is a million miles away. You can't distract them from those thoughts no matter how much you try. They're just not ready yet. It's well done. One last shout out to the folks who did the setting sort of stuff. It just, yeah. Throughout the entire season, I'm like, oh, I want to go there. Can I tag along for your adventure? Sure, it doesn't seem there's that many zombies. I'll tag along. Another new addition is Joel admitting he tried to kill himself. And I think that scene works well because of how he ends. Ellie says time heals all wounds, and Joel says meeting her was what healed his wounds. And it's just like, they're great. And then being typical humans, they're back to the pun book. And yeah, it's a very sweet moment. Joel rampaging through the hospital, I think was good. Stylistic choice to sort of kind of like have that ringing noise. And kind of reminds you of Logan, whereas aging Wolverine, you got one last hurrah, one last ta-da. I think the rampage was shot well, and a lot of kind of slow camera movements. Joel's movement is deliberate. He's accurate. He's calm under pressure, reloading in cover, waiting on the guy before poof, poof. Very video game-like. I'm out of ammo. Give me your gun. I'm out of that ammo. I'm going to use my knife. And not only enough, I'm going to use the switchblade. Like, that was cool. That was really cool. And realistic. That's what happens. You're out of bullets. Take the other guy's gun. Most action movies, you're just firing. You're like, how big is your magazine? And brings us to the final scene, the swear to me. The game did it better. What I was so miffed about is the camera angle on Joel being from here up. So in the game, the camera angle shows from waist up and you can see with his arms crossed and he's talking about you find something, worth surviving for, you keep going, and he kind of touches his broken watch. It's like, oh, that was a beautiful thing. Like, there's the frame, boom, he's touching his watch, he's going back to... Like, why would you not have that? That's like, pull the camera back a little bit. I don't know, it's weird to me. So, overall thoughts about the entire season, it's good. It's one of the best video game adaptations that I can think of. Yeah, I will be watching season 2. I'm obviously a bit more biased, towards the game after playing it for so long and over the past decade. All these different playthroughs and any sort of little change, I'm like, why'd you do that? Oh, why'd you do that? But there are some nice additions. Like I said, the opening of the entire season with the scientists explaining it, the parts in Indonesia, the pre-breakout stuff, Bill's Town opening montage, the love story. Even if I do I think it's going to be quite a shock to people who do play the game after the show when they meet Bill and go like, what the hell? Bill? This isn't the sweet, nice Bill I know. Some of the moments taken from the game didn't hit the Sarah's death scene for me, the bedroom scene, the closing scene. But again, biased towards the game. It's a damn good show. Looking forward to season 2, and because I don't have the same sort of attachment to part 2 stories as I do part 1, go nuts with changes, I don't mind. Although I am unwavering on one thing, I do need Abby to punch a clicker square in the face. Alright? You don't do that at least once. What are we even doing? In conclusion, much like The Last of Us is a game for people who normally don't play games, The Last of Us is a show for people who normally don't watch zombie shows.